What up, peeps? Here at Operation Sports, we started thinking, what would be a dream roster in ESBC? So I started brainstorming. I started thinking, from heavyweight to bantamweight, who are those top fighters? And now we're talking about the top 5 fighters per division. And look, I already know I'm going to have to cheat. There's way too many good fighters, and I'm going to do my best to sprinkle in some of the relevant fighters today. But when you look at this list, I'm just going to keep it real with the dream roster theme. So if some fighters get cut, then trust me, I want all of them. But it is what it is. And I might throw in some wild cards as well, because this is one of the hardest rosters that you can build. I mean, there's so many fighters, so let's get into it. So for heavyweights, already props to ESBC for dropping those legend reveals, because that's going to allow me to add some newer fighters to this list. And right off the bat, I know it's kind of disappointing. The 2 fighters that I wanted to initially put on this list due to relevancy and how dominant they are today, Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, will not make this list because they are licensed to UFC for their likeness and their names, so I can't add them. But just know they were going to make this list for sure. Coming in at number 5, we're going to go Vladimir Klitschko. I mean, Vladimir had a record of 64 wins, only 5 losses. A lot of people thought he was boring, but guess what? It doesn't matter, because he was going to go right upside your head with that jab for a full 12 rounds. Your face and your eyes and your nose would be completely swollen. He's got a 76% KO percentage. He's very disciplined. So many title defenses as well. Number 4, we're going to go with Lennox Lewis. 41 wins, 32 of those wins coming by KO with only 2 losses. Lennox, another fighter trained by Emmanuel Stewart, just like Klitschko. Disciplined jab, good right hand. Lennox beat Evander Holyfield. Battled back-to-back with Vitaly Klitschko. That fight, the earlier rounds, Vitaly was doing very well until he got cut. But towards the end, if you go back and look at it, Lennox was landing that uppercut at will. I wish that fight would have continued down all the way to the 12th round, so we could have got a more of a definitive victory for each fighter. But number 3, Evander Holyfield, he's got to be on this list. 44 wins, 29 of those by knockout, 10 losses. And you're talking about a man with a chin. When his motor was running, it was hard to stop. They don't call him the real deal for nothing. He beat Mike Tyson twice. Very solid heavyweight. Coming in at number 2, who else but Mike Tyson? I don't even need to go through Mike Tyson's record or nothing. I mean, it's Mike. He's on the list. I mean, relentless power, nice pressure style, that upper body movement. Mike Tyson's on the list just because he's Mike. Number 1, and I mean, come on now. We know who number 1 is. It's Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all time. That would just put the icing on the cake for this list. You combine this heavyweight list to what they already have currently, and talk about the mixing and matching of fights that you can make, oh my. And there's some other fighters that very well could have made this list as well, like Sonny Liston, Riddick Bowe, and Deontay Wilder. That would have been a great addition as well. But I believe this list right here are some names that are really going to raise the bar when you talk about a dream lineup. Now let's get into the cruiserweight division. The cruiserweight division is one of those weird divisions. It's like, why aren't you in heavyweight? Or why aren't you in light heavy? Nah, play, I'm in cruiserweight. Coming in at number 5, I got Vasily Girov. Oh my goodness, Vasily Girov. This man has a chin made of platinum, iron, gold, diamond. You get the point. This guy was a machine. 38 wins, 32 by KO. Only 3 losses. This guy threw so many punches around. He was a workman in that ring. We're gonna go with Marco Huck. Captain Huck in the house. Holds a win over Denis Lebedev, who is a tough fighter. Also went up to heavyweight, went toe-to-toe with Alexander Povetkin. My man has a strong chin, really good boxing ability. Coming in at number 3 is Juan Carlos Gomez. Another solid fighter, 55 wins, 40 KOs, only 4 losses. Nice solid Cuban fighter. He holds a win over Oliver McCall, which is a solid victory, and his overall reign in the cruiserweight division was very solid. Number 2, going with Alexander Usyk, the winner of the WBSS cruiserweight tournament. This man could flat out box, jab, move. A really good fighter. He recently moved up to heavyweight, but I like to see him in these cruiserweight ranks. Now, technically, a lot of these fighters in cruiserweight could either go up or down, so the mix and the match would be nice. And number 1, David Haye. I would love to see a cruiserweight version of David Haye. I mean, the Haymaker, 28 wins, 26 by knockout. David Haye was laying people down with that right hand. It'd be really dope to have a David Haye cruiserweight in this game. Moving on to light heavyweight, coming in at number 5, Sergey Kovalev. He has been in light heavyweight, destroying people for a very long time. Multiple light heavyweight world championships, WBA, IBF, WBO. Had a draw with Andre Ward, which he arguably could have won. Coming in at number 4, Antonio Tarver, another solid career light heavyweight. The first man to knock out Roy Jones in devastating fashion. Roy Jones was never the same after this fight, and Antonio, a southpaw, he was dangerous. Coming in at number 3, Bernard Hopkins, the executioner. 55 wins, 32 KOs, 8 losses. Hopkins was really dominant as a middleweight, but as he moved up, and this man was consistent. He fought some names in light heavyweight: Kovalev, Shumanov, Boris Cloud, Chad Johnson, John Pascal, Roy Jones. He's a force to be reckoned with in these light heavyweight ranks. Number 2, Roy Jones Jr. Machine Gun Roy, they used to call him. We already know what the talent is. Roy is a talented fighter, may have fought way too long past his prime, but in his prime, at light heavyweight, you were not messing with Roy. Number 1, Archie Moore. 187 victories, 132 by KO. This was a busy man, and he had dynamites for fist. Only 23 losses. Not many fighters have a career that even spans this long. Moving on to super middleweight, at number 5, we're going to go with Arthur Abraham. This man has been dangerous for a long time in his heyday. Power in both hands, good chin. He had one style: hands high, swing, and knock you out. Coming in at number 4, Mikkel Kessler, another solid champion. Had some good wins over Marcus Beyer, Anthony Mundane. When Mikkel Kessler stepped up, he competed very well and has a big victory over Carl Froch. Coming in at number 3 is Carl Froch. Carl Froch, and what can I say about this guy? He talked the talk and he backed it up. He has a win over Kessler as well, George Groves, Lucien Boutte, went the distance with Andre Ward but lost. This guy beat Glenn Johnson, who was like the workman of the division. Beat him easy too. This guy, Carl Froch, was a heck of a fighter. Coming in at number 2, Andre Ward, SOG. Get him in the game, please. A matter of fact, SOG replied to a tweet I seen recently. Is this a sign? I hope so. Andre Ward, 32-0. 16 KOs. He grinded it out and really did well in his career. And he has wins over everybody: Sergey Kovalev, Chad Dawson, Carl Froch, Arthur Abraham, Saki Obika, Alan Green, Mikkel Kessler. And he easily could have been number 1, but man, I have to go with Joe Calzaghe. Joe Calzaghe, this dude, talk about having an engine. He threw so many punches. Yeah, they used to call them slaps, but let him slap you hard one time, you were going down, because this dude had 32 KOs. Beat Roy Jones, beat Bernard Hopkins, beat Mikkel Kessler, Saki Obika, Jeff Lacey, and this whole super middleweight division, so many good names. See, now I'm really torn. Calzaghe or Andre Ward, you guys let me know. It's a toss-up. Now, as I move on to the middleweight division, it's kind of thinning out because I moved Bernard Hopkins up to light heavy because he had a lot of notable fights there, even though a middleweight, he was really on top of his game. Ray Robinson is already in the game, so I can't include him. So it's getting a little thin. I'm trying to figure out what would be the dream roster. And at number 5, I'm coming in with Kelly Pavlik. Kelly Pavlik, another good fighter, a really strong chin, 34 KOs. He could hit hard, both hands. He would be a great addition, coming in at that number 5 slot. Of course, his biggest win was over Jermaine Taylor, who was undefeated at the time. And that first fight with Jermaine Taylor, Still a good fight to go back and watch. But you also got to give him props for knocking out Edison Miranda, who was a rugged, strong fighter at the time. Coming in at number 4, GGG, Gennady Golovkin. A very steady fighter, very solid, 36 knockouts. I mean, he's only lost to Canelo, and Canelo is on top of his game. He's got wins over Daniel Jacobs, Kell Brook, David Lemieux. Golovkin has to make the list, in my opinion. Coming in at number 3, Jake LaMotta. I mean, we're here talking about a guy who fought Sugar Ray Robinson 6 times, and twice in a 3-week span. And he holds a win over Sugar Ray Robinson. Let alone get in the ring with him, fight him 6 times. Jake LaMotta's a tough dude. Number 2, we're going to go with Carlos Monzon. Monzon, known for his speed, punching power, reckless work rate. And the interesting thing is, each one of his losses were early in his career, and he avenged them. So he definitely got his get back. And here we go. I mean, there's too many good fighters in the middleweight division, historically. And there's nobody more relevant than Canelo Alvarez. Canelo is in total beast mode right now. We're talking about he's won multiple world championships, 4 different weight classes, light middleweight, middleweight, super middleweight, and I can't believe this, light heavyweight. He's ridiculous. It will be so dope if they can get Canelo. And number 1 in middleweight, marvelous Marvin Hagler. Hagler was a beast. 52 KOs out of his 62 wins. He beat Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, a disputed fight with Sugar Ray Leonard. We all know about that one. Marvin Hagler was the man in middleweight. Let's move on to super welterweight. And like I said, I wanted to try to mix in some relevant fighters here as well. And this one is deserving. Number 5, Jermell Charlo. I believe Jermell is holding at least 2 or 3 of the major title belts in this division right now. So he's on top. Good jab, good right hand, good foot movement. Felix Tito Trinidad, one of the biggest punching super welterweights in history. Won the IBF title at 20 years old. Holds a victory over Pernell Whitaker and Oscar De La Hoya. Coming in at number 3, I got Winky Wright. Strong jab. He had that high guard that was just so tough to penetrate. People would throw shots at Winky Wright's arms, and Winky Wright would come back with combinations. A win over Felix Trinidad. Shane Mosley twice. Coming in at number 2, terrible Terry Norris. His most notable win was a victory over Sugar Ray Leonard, and was a 3-time world champion in the super welterweight division. And number 1, Tommy the Hitman Hearns, the Motor City Cobra. Tommy Hearns could punch, freakishly long arms. He knew how to generate power out of nowhere and take you out. Fought Ray Leonard to a draw, knocked Roberto Duran out in 2 rounds. Moving on to the welterweight division, and at number 5, we're going to put in Miguel Cotto. Miguel was a multiple world champion, first Puerto Rican boxer to win world titles in 4 different weight classes. Solid victories over Shane Mosley and Zab Judah. Number 4, I'm going to go with Oscar De La Hoya. This man has fought everybody, not to mention his skill set. Amazing jab, really good boxing technique. He is the golden boy for sure. Man, I gotta cheat again. It's hard to keep this list of 5. I gotta squeeze Shane Mosley in here. Multiple world championships, 3 different weight classes, IBF lightweight, WBA, WBC titles, 2 victories over Oscar De La Hoya. Number 3, going with Manny Pacquiao. I mean, you gotta have Pacquiao on the list. Still whooping fools today. Wins over Keith Thurman, Adrian Broner. These are some of the newer generation fighters. Manny is no joke. The welterweight division would be complete fire with Manny Pacquiao in here. Coming in at number 2, Floyd Mayweather Jr. Floyd could easily be number 1. I mean, there's no question. I mean, it's Floyd Mayweather. He is 50-0. Wins over Manny Pacquiao, Canelo Alvarez, Miguel Cotto, Shane Mosley, Ricky Hatton, Oscar De La Hoya. There's no denying the man. But at number 1, I am going with Sugar Ray Leonard. I like the wins over Duran, over Hearns, over Hagler especially. Ray Leonard would be an excellent addition. Super lightweight. Coming in at number 5, we're going to go with Zab Super Judah. Probably Zab's best weight class. I think With name recognition, this Zab Judah deserves a shot. I would love to see him back in the mix in this 140-pound division. I gotta throw in another wild card, and we all know boxing is very cultural. And in my head, I'm thinking Amir Khan would be a good addition. Off culture and skill set alone. Yeah, my man's chin has been very suspect, but you can't deny that hand speed. A Pakistani boxer in ESBC, I just think that would be real dope. Not to mention silver medal in the Olympics. He was a unified light welterweight champion. Amir had the WBA and the IBF titles. At number 4, we're going to go with Timothy Bradley, Desert Storm. Most notable wins over Manny Pacquiao, Devin Alexander, Lamont Peterson. Bradley is very solid. Coming in at number 3, Ricky the Hitman Hatton. This boy knew how to cut the ring off like nobody's business. It was hard to escape him, and he had a relentless body attack. Ricky Hatton, with his aggressive style, would be great for ESBC. Coming in with number 2, Costa Tszyu. Costa Tszyu, an all-around boxer puncher, had great accuracy and timing. He holds wins over Zab Judah, Sharmba Mitchell, and Julio Cesar Chavez, who is past his prime at a time, but a win is a win. Speaking of Julio Cesar Chavez, he is number 1 on this list. This guy in his prime, you weren't stopping him. I mean, out of his 107 victories, 85 KOs, this was a man who won 89 wins and 0 losses. A ridiculous win streak. Alright, so now we're getting into the lighter weight divisions. Let's do a top 10, and let's go from lightweight to bantamweight. Heck, maybe even super flyweight. Let's pull out some names, some good fighters that will round out this dream roster. And you know what? I have to start at super fly because we gotta throw Johnny Tapia in there. Johnny Tapia held multiple world championships in 3 different weight classes, and he also unified the IBF and WBO with super flyweight. Johnny Tapia is the man. Then we're gonna slide Roman Gonzalez in there. First boxer from Nicaragua to win world titles in 4 different weight classes. Has a ton of notable wins. Another excellent fighter. Then we're going to roll with Nonito Donaire. Another fighter, held multiple world championships in 4 different weight classes. IBF flyweight title. Also unified the WBC and WBO. It recently had a war with the New Way the Monster. Was a great fight. Then we're going to take it back to the old school with Wilfredo Gomez, Puerto Rican fighter, 3-time world champion, would be a great addition. Next up, Eric Morales. We've got to get Eric Morales in the mix. The first Mexican-born boxer in history to win world titles in 4 different weight classes. El Terrible. And you can't do Eric Morales without Marco Antonio Barrera, because we want to see that trilogy all over again in ESBC. We might have them fight 20 times, who knows. Barrera, another fighter who held multiple world titles, 3 different weight classes. Then we're going to go with Salvador Sanchez, the WBC and the lineal featherweight champion. In his heyday, he was a beast. Then we're going to go with Prince Nassim Hamed. Held multiple featherweight world championships. He held the WBO title and the IBF and the WBC. Very flamboyant and hits hard. Very, very awkward fighter. Hit hard with both hands. We're going to go with Willie Pep. I mean, this is a fighter who boxed a total of 1,956 rounds. Insane. A 26-year career, and held the World Featherweight Championship twice. 229 wins. He was a pure boxer. Vasily Lomachenko, High Tech, The Matrix, whatever you want to call him. The boy's talented, mad skilled. Let's add him to the list. I'm going to add Gervonta Davis as kind of like a wild card. I feel like he'd be fun. He'd be kind of like the Mike Tyson of the lighter weight division. He's already a 4-time world champion, WBA, IBF. Then we're going to go with Inoue the Monster. Already a 3-time world champion, unified bantamweight champion, WBA, IBF. Also previously held the WBO junior bantamweight title. He's a hard hitter. 20 wins, 17 KOs. Then we got Juan Manuel Marquez. the third Mexican boxer to become a world champion in 4 weight classes. Then we got Alexis Arguello. He was a 3-weight world champion, having held the WBA featherweight title, the WBC super featherweight, and the WBC lightweight title. Also known as the explosive thin man. He packed a punch. And we're going to top it off with Roberto Duran. Held world championships in 4 different weight classes: lightweight, welterweight, light middleweight, and middleweight. You know he holds that victory over Sugar Ray Leonard as well. 103 victories, 70 KOs. He was a heck of a fighter. Alright, well that's it, peeps, and I already know there's a lot of fighters that did not make this list. And like I said, I want all the fighters. But after looking at all the fighters in each division, this list I feel is my dream roster. If we can get half or even a quarter of these fighters on this list into the game, that would be awesome. So to those fighters who I missed, let us know in the comments who you like. Steel City Interactive, they are listening. They're out there definitely listening. I'm sure they'll watch this. This could give them some ideas. You know, us, the community, just kind of talking about it and voicing our opinion is a very good thing. Alright peeps, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Alright, you know what time it is. Until next time. Yeah.